Dan and Amy. So apparently, Amy, School District 15, the school board there is insane in the membrane. Insane in the brain.
Insane in the wall.
They got no brain. Went insane. They signed a 10-year contract. 10 years.
Why are you?
Wow, a 10-year contract with the teachers. A 10-year contract.
I've never even heard of that.
The question is, how much does the school board in Palatine, School District 15, hate their taxpayers? Apparently a lot. This is not like, we extracted such concessions from the teachers union that we wanted to lock it in, borderline in perpetuity. No, the 2.5 to 4% raises per year.
How much?
2.5 to 4% raises per year over 10 years. You don't, in this financial climate where, oh, by the way, we pay the highest property taxes in the state, of any state in the nation, you really want to lock in for a decade those kind of financial obligations?
Better have a very strong tax base.
They must have predictive power that is not possessed by Nobel Prize winning economists. I mean, honestly, in terms of what the world is going to look like, what your district's going to look like, what the economy is going to look like. A decade from now, this is just bizarre. To help us try and understand what the thinking could have possibly been, we're now joined by Tim Millar. He's a former, I'm sure he wants us to emphasize former, District 15 school board president. He's now a Palatine Village Council member. Tim, thanks for joining us.
Sure, thank you.
So can you help us make sense of this?
It's difficult. The only explanation, I guess, was budget certainty. But obviously income certainty is not there.
Budget certainty. How about financing that budget certainty?
Exactly, yeah. One of the big challenges, obviously, or one of the taxpayer hits is it guarantees maximum increases every year. There'll be no help for the taxpayer because they'll have to levy above the CPI, including all the new construction to try to pay for this.
Well, with this new contract, does it almost guarantee that property taxes are going to go up in Palatine?
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, they're going to go
up. By how
up.
much? I mean, that's because there are some huge homes, palatial estates in Palatine.
Those homes are going to be empty.
Inverness. Pardon?
Those homes are going to be empty.
Yeah, fortunately, they're tax capped to some extent. I believe they'll also try to increase with a referendum doing bonding as well. They've already bonded out pretty much, maxed out that levy. So it's not good news. I mean, it really puts the taxpayers, in a tough position, as well as the district, going forward. There's no way you can predict legislative changes as well.
But precisely. So taxing and spending and borrowing and spending, it's been working so well at the state level. Why not bring it to the local level? I wonder what other details do we know about this 10-year deal as it pertains to the benefit side, like health insurance?
Yeah, health insurance is the scary part.
That's the scary part.
That's one of those things that actually goes up quite a bit more than CPI on average. And with this, it looks like they're locking in the plan as well as the contributions, which I don't know of any other government agency that could do that.
What was the thinking behind this, though? A 10-year contract? Was there some fear that teachers would leave District 15 and go somewhere else?
I don't believe that's it. Unfortunately, District 15 has had, a history of quite a bit of politics, which is not uncommon, of course, on school boards. So I'm not sure if they were just trying to tie future school boards' hands by going long on the contract.
Well, what is the nature of the school board there? I mean, or do they have a school board at all? Or did they just have like kabuki theater where one union representative negotiated with the other union representative and they came up with this very nice deal for themselves?
Yeah, I mean, right now it does appear to be a less independent school board than we've had in the past. We had, big change years ago. When I was on the board, we were able to get a lot of independent people as opposed to, the typical inside candidates. And right now, unfortunately, the inside candidates are in charge of the board and actually have the entire board. So
And the inside, are we talking about like teachers union backed school board members? Is that one of the issues?
Correct. I mean, we even have a retired superintendent in our high school district on that board who was appointed by the regional superintendent, even though he lost big in that election.
No, we're starting to get to the bottom of it.
Now, why aren't you on the school board anymore?
I thought it was in great shape when I left. We had a great contract, and it was time for me to move on. I've always had an interest in the municipal side. A little less stressful, too, on the municipal side.
I can imagine, but this is one of those cautionary tales about, the school board isn't sexy, doesn't pay anything to be a board member, but if you don't pay attention, there are interested parties that play the concentrated benefits, diffuse cost game to your detriment.
Exactly, and in the district, I mean, we have 1,200 employees, so in an election where there's only 3,300 votes that in the last couple that have won the election, it makes it very difficult for outside candidates.
Has there been any public outrage over this? I mean, how many parents or taxpayers attended the meeting when the deal was approved?
There is. There has been quite a bit of outrage. I've had a lot of emails from ex-officials, from, experts in the field asking, what can be done. And unfortunately, the only thing that can be done is at the ballot box in the future, but now you have to wait 10 years.
I mean,
to do anything, which is incredible.
We're talking to Tim Millar. He's a former School District 15 school board president up there in Palatine. He's a Palatine Village council member now. Talking about this 10-year contract School District 15 struck with the teachers union. State Representative Jeannie Ives, she's a Republican from Wheaton. She has a good idea. She's introduced legislation that hasn't gone anywhere, but it doesn't mean it couldn't be potentially adopted at the local level. And it would require a 14-day posting and one public hearing prior to the ratification and vote on a collective bargain, on a collectively bargained agreement. Boy, that would be helpful, wouldn't it? Because then there would have been a little bit of appraisal of the community. So 14 days, you've got a chance to understand what's in a potential deal, and you've got then 2 weeks to make your position known, your voice heard before your duly elected representatives take it up.
It would be interesting. I mean, there's obviously pros and cons to that. We've always been counseled, that we always have to watch out for the labor acts. That it would be an unfair labor practice if we agreed to something at the table and then took it off later. The timing of the votes with the teachers union, but it definitely would be, positive to have those kind of things ahead of the vote for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, boy, this is really something.
One of the other items
go ahead. Yeah.
Mention too with the agreement is retirement incentives. It's kind of a creative way to get around the state law they've come up with, which is basically doubling the sick days at the end of career. And what that allows them to do is kind of juice the pensions by retiring early.
That's part of this deal, too?
It is. They've doubled it from 12 sick days to 24, which is incredible.
So you just pile up the sick days, and as you say, you don't work, but you juice your pension for, the rest of your life.
Right. You get to retire 2 years up to 2 years early, and the state pays your pension then for those extra 2 years.
I'll tell you what,
this keeps getting
when
crazier.
This contract expires in the year 2342, why don't you just tell the teachers union, look, we're just going to write you a blank check. You guys just fill in the numbers there, or tell the school board to tell the teachers, let's not even go through the pretense of collective bargaining or negotiation. Just give us a number, and that's what we'll pay, and we'll tax and spend and borrow and spend to get to that number. I mean, it truly could not be much worse than this contract based on what you've outlined.
Yeah, we'd like to see all the details, but I'm sure it's not as great as what they're portraying it to be with the average increases and things like that. I'm coming up with much higher numbers. So
he is Tim Millar, former School District 15 board president up in Palatine, current Palatine Village council member. Tim, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This only